There are 13 kinds of fear you never forget, and tonight, you'll meet each one. Not every horror comes with ghosts or monsters. Some wear uniforms, some live next door, some are hidden in the most ordinary moments. A wrong turn, a late night knock, a voice that shouldn't exist. In this video, we reveal 13 true accounts of terror that shook people to their core. These aren't campfire tales, they're confessions, witness statements, regrets. And once you hear them, they may feel too close, too familiar. Because true horror doesn't warn you. It happens in the middle of the day. It starts with a smile, and it never ends when the story does. So if you're ready to face fear in its rawest form, lean in. These 13 nightmares are waiting for you. Midnight in a small-town ice cream shop, the neon sign hums faintly, casting a sickly glow over the empty parking lot. I'm alone, surrounded by the ghosts of a day's chaos. Sticky counters, crumpled napkins, the faint scent of vanilla clinging to the air. But something's wrong tonight. The silence isn't just quiet. It's heavy, like the world's holding its breath. I feel it in my bones, a prickling unease, as if unseen eyes are watching from the darkness beyond the glass. I work the graveyard, shift at Sweet Swirls, a tiny ice cream parlor tucked in a dying strip mall. The town's small, the kind where everyone knows your name but forgets your face. By 10 p.m., the high schoolers who loiter in the lot are gone, leaving me with the hum of the freezer and the occasional flicker of the streetlight. It's 1 a.m. now, and the world outside feels like a dream I can't wake from. The shop's one room, barely big enough for 10 people, feels both safe and suffocating, its walls pressing in as the night deepens. Pattern interruption. What's that? A flicker in the corner of my eye, gone before I can blink. Not the streetlight, something else, something alive. I shake it off and start cleaning, wiping down counters already spotless from boredom. The routine grounds me. Spray, wipe, repeat. But the unease lingers, a cold finger tracing my spine. I glance at the front windows, expecting nothing but my own reflection. Instead, I see the abandoned shop next door, its windows dark, boarded, and lifeless. It's been empty for years, a relic of better days when this strip mall thrived. I turn back to my work, but then it happens again. A flash of light, brief and sharp, slicing through the darkness of that dead store. Sensory overload. The air grows thick, heavy with the scent of bleach and sugar. My pulse hammers in my ears, drowning out the freezer's hum. The glass feels colder under my fingertips, the shadows sharper, as if the night itself is leaning closer, whispering secrets I don't want to hear. I freeze, staring at the empty shop. Was it a car's headlights? I check the road. Nothing. Not a single vehicle. The lot's a void, swallowing sound and light. My mind races. Maybe it's kids sneaking around for a thrill. Harmless, right? But the light flickers again, slower this time, like a flashlight sweeping the back of the store, deep in its gut. It's not random. Someone's in there moving, with purpose. Embedded command. Stay calm. Don't panic, just breathe. But my body betrays me, heart pounding as I grip the counter. I tell myself it's nothing, just bored teens exploring. But the shop's attached to mine, sharing a wall. Whoever's in there is close, too close. I strain to listen, but the night's too quiet. A suffocating blanket. Then a sound, a faint thud against the shared wall. Soft but deliberate, like someone testing the barrier between us. Trance loop. The sound loops in my mind, thud, pause, pulling me deeper into the moment. I'm not here, not really. I'm floating, watching myself stand frozen in this tiny shop, a speck in a vast, uncaring night. The thud comes again, and I'm back, skin prickling, every nerve screaming to run. I consider calling the cops, but what would I say? I saw a light and heard a noise. They'd laugh, tell me to lock the door and wait it out. I try to focus, grabbing a broom to sweep the already clean floor. Anything to keep my hands busy. The clock ticks toward 2 a.m., each second stretching into eternity. I lean against the counter, staring out the window, willing the night to stay still. That's when the door chimes, a sharp jangle that rips through the silence. Nested storytelling. I remember a story my coworker told me about a night shift gone wrong. A man came in, quiet, unassuming, but his eyes were wrong, empty like a shark's. He didn't order, just stared, then left. The next day they found a knife in the lot, rusted but sharp. I laughed it off then, called her paranoid. Now I wish I'd listened. The man who walks in is alone, mid-40s, with a tangled beard and greasy hair that hangs over his eyes. His clothes are stained, reeking of sweat and something sour like old beer. He shuffles to the counter, his gaze darting between me and the display case. "Welcome in," I say, voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. "What can I get you?" He doesn't answer, just stares, his eyes glassy, unblinking. Seconds drag on, each one heavier than the last. Then he smiles, a slow, crooked thing that doesn't reach his eyes, and backs out the door without a word. Anchoring. That smile anchors me to this moment, a memory I know will haunt me. It's not just strange, it's wrong, like a mask slipping to reveal something predatory beneath. I'm shaking now, the shop's warmth doing nothing to chase the chill in my bones. The light, the thud, the man. It's all connected, isn't it? I need air, space, anything to break this spiral of fear. I grab my lunch bag, a flimsy shield against the unknown, and head to my car. The lot's empty, but the darkness feels alive, watching. I slide into the driver's seat, lock the doors and bite into my sandwich, the taste of bread and turkey grounding me. The night is still, too still until movement catches my eye. Pattern interruption. Two figures emerge from the shadows, not walking but stalking, their steps deliberate, predatory. One wears a familiar jacket, the man from the shop. The other holds something, a flashlight, its beam cutting through the night like a blade. My throat tightens, a lump of fear I can't swallow. They're not here for ice cream. They move toward the shop, not as customers but as hunters, peering through the windows, jumping the counter, searching the back room. They're looking for me. My phone's in my hand before I realize it, fingers trembling as I dial 911. "Someone's in my shop," I whisper, voice barely audible over my pounding heart. "They're looking for me." The operator's calm voice feels like a lifeline. "Stay where you are, help's on the way." I crouch lower, watching the men emerge from the shop, empty-handed but agitated. They run to the back, disappearing into the night. I don't move, don't breathe until red and blue lights flash in the distance. The cops find a busted door in the abandoned shop next door. Proof someone was there, planning, waiting. They don't catch the men, but I know the truth. I was their target, and only chance eating lunch in my car saved me. Nested storytelling. My grandma used to say, "Trust your gut, child. Sees what your eyes miss." I ignored that instinct tonight, brushed off the light, the thud, the man's smile. Never again. The night taught me something. Danger doesn't always scream. It whispers, and you'd better listen. The shop feels different now, its bright colors muted, its warmth a lie. I finish my shift in a daze. Every shadow a threat, every sound a warning. The men are gone, but their presence lingers, a stain on the night. I don't know what they wanted. Robbery, something worse. but I know I'll never feel safe here again. The lot stretches out beyond the glass, vast and empty, but I can't shake the feeling that it's watching, waiting for me to step back into its grasp. The air felt wrong that night, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. In 2019, I was just another face behind the counter at a small grocery store, working late shifts to pay for my one-bedroom apartment. The store sat on the edge of town, where neon lights flickered against cracked pavement and the hum of fluorescent bulbs drowned out the quiet. I liked the routine. Scan, bag, smile, repeat. It was predictable, safe. But safety, I learned, is just an illusion we cling to until it shatters. The regulars were part of the rhythm. Old Mrs. Carter with her coupons, the night shift nurses grabbing energy drinks, and him. He came in a few times a week, always just before closing, when the store was nearly empty. A tall man, maybe in his 40s, with a face that looked like it. Hadn't smiled in years. His eyes were heavy, shadowed like he carried a weight I couldn't see. He'd buy random things, a loaf of bread, a single apple, never speaking beyond a mumbled thanks. I didn't know his name, but the other cashiers called him last-minute guy. Nobody liked him. Not because he was rude, but because he lingered, his presence like a cold draft you couldn't shake. That night, the clock ticked slower, each second stretching into eternity. It was a Tuesday, the kind of mundane evening where nothing should happen. The store was dead, the aisles silent except for the faint buzz of a dying light. I was wiping down the counter, counting the minutes until I could lock up, when the bell above the door jingled. I looked up, and there he was, last-minute guy, his coat damp from the drizzle outside. His boots left wet smudges on the floor, and his eyes flicked toward me, then away, like he was studying something just beyond my shoulder. I scanned his items, a can of soup, a pack of gum, my fingers moving on autopilot. "Evening," I said, forcing a smile. He nodded, barely, audible, and handed me crumpled bills. As he left, I felt a prickle on my neck, like the air had shifted, grown heavier. I shook it off. Just another night, I told myself. 10 minutes later, I locked the register, flipped the closed sign, and stepped into the parking lot. The air was thick with mist, the streetlights casting hazy halos. My car was parked at the far end under a flickering lamp. As I walked, my sneakers scuffed against the asphalt, the sound too loud in the stillness. That's when I saw him. Last-minute guy standing by his car, motionless, staring at the store. His hands hung at his sides, unnaturally still, like a statue carved from shadow. The drizzle clung to his hair, but he didn't move to wipe it away. My stomach twisted. Why was he still here? I hurried to my car, my keys jingling in my trembling hand, and locked the doors the second I was inside. Through the windshield, I watched him. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, his gaze fixed on the store, or maybe on me. I started the engine and pulled out, my heart thudding against my ribs. In the rearview mirror, his silhouette faded into the mist. Back at my apartment, I tried to shake the unease. The drive home had been a blur, my mind replaying that moment in the parking lot. Why was he just standing there? My apartment was my sanctuary, a small space with creaky floors and mismatched furniture. But it was mine. I locked the door, checked it twice, and sank onto the couch. The TV flickered, some late-night rerun I wasn't really watching. I told myself I was overreacting. People linger sometimes. Maybe he was waiting for someone, or lost in thought. But the prickle on my neck wouldn't fade, like a whisper I couldn't quite hear. I stayed up later than usual, too wired to sleep. It was past midnight when I finally dragged myself to bed, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I left the bedside lamp on, a habit from childhood I'd never shaken. As I pulled the covers over me, a memory surfaced. A story my mom used to tell about a neighbor who swore someone watched her through her window every night. She'd laughed it off until she found footprints in her yard. I pushed the thought away. This is different, you're safe. The lamp cast soft shadows on the walls and I closed my eyes, willing sleep to come. Then a light pierced the darkness, sharp and blinding. My eyes snapped open. A beam cut through the window, slicing across my bedroom like a blade. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. It was headlights, I told myself, maybe a neighbor pulling in. But the light lingered, unmoving, pinning me to the bed. My heart pounded, each beat loud enough to drown out the silence. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the light vanished. The room plunged back into dimness, the lamp's glow weak and flickering. I lay there, straining to hear something. Anything. A car engine, footsteps, a door closing. Nothing. Just the oppressive quiet pressing against my eardrums. I forced myself to breathe, to move. It was nothing, I repeated, a mantra to keep the panic at bay. I drifted into an uneasy sleep, the kind where dreams blur with reality. Something woke me, a sound that didn't belong. I jolted upright, my heart racing before my mind could catch up. The room was dark, the lamp still on but weaker, like it was struggling to stay lit. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand, my fingers clumsy. The screen was blank, no calls, no notifications. But I'd heard something, hadn't I? A ring, sharp and insistent, like my phone vibrating against wood. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake the fog of sleep. That's when I saw it. The bedroom door, always closed tight, was ajar. Not wide open, just a sliver, the gap barely wide enough to let in the darkness from the hallway. My stomach dropped. I never left it open. Never. I slid out of bed, my bare feet cold against the floor. The air felt thick, like it was holding its breath again. I reached for the door, my hand trembling, and pushed it shut. It latched smoothly, no resistance, no creak. It wasn't stuck. Someone opened it. My mind raced, grasping for explanations. A draft? A faulty hinge? But deep down, I knew better. The light from earlier, the man in the parking lot, it was all connected, a thread pulling tighter around me. I backed away from the door, my eyes darting to the window. The blinds were half open, the street outside shrouded in mist. I crept closer, my pulse hammering in my ears, and peeked through the slats. A car sat in my driveway, its rear half barely visible, swallowed by the fog. My breath hitched. It wasn't mine. Panic clawed at my chest. I needed to call someone. Anyone. I turned toward the nightstand, my phone a lifeline in the chaos. But as I took a step, something moved in the corner of my vision. A shadow, quick and deliberate, in the closet. I froze, my body screaming to run, but my legs rooted to the floor. Slowly, I turned my head, praying it was a trick of the light. An eye stared back at me, glinting through the crack in the closet door. It was human, unblinking, locked on mine. My knees buckled, a gasp tearing from my throat. The world tilted, dream and reality collapsing into one. I didn't think. I ran. My feet pounded against the floor, the hallway a blur as I sprinted for the front door. The eye burned into my mind, a predator's gaze, patient and hungry. I fumbled, with the lock my hand slick with sweat, and burst outside. The cold air hit me like a slap, the mist swallowing me as I stumbled down the steps. I didn't stop until I reached a neighbor's house, banging on their door until lights flickered on inside. They let me in, their faces a mix of confusion and concern, and called the police while I sat on their couch, trembling, unable to speak. The police arrived quickly, their flashlights cutting through the fog. The car in my driveway was still there, a beat-up sedan I didn't recognize. But the apartment was empty. No sign of the man, no trace of the eye in the closet. The officers searched every inch, their radios crackling in the silence. They found nothing. No fingerprints, no forced entry. Just my open bedroom door and the blinds I'd left askew. They tracked the car to him, last-minute guy, the man from the store. He'd been watching me for weeks, they said, his mind unraveling in ways they couldn't explain. His reasons were a jumbled mess, a mix of obsession and delusion. They arrested him, but it didn't erase the truth. He'd been in my home, inches, from me while I slept. I moved out the next week, unable to step foot in that apartment again. The memory of that eye haunts me, a reminder that safety is fragile, that monsters don't always hide in the dark. They walk into your store, buy your gum, and follow you home. Every night I check my doors, my windows, my closets, but I know it's not enough. Because once you've seen that eye, you never stop feeling it, watching, waiting, just out of sight. Strange how a single sound can unravel your sense of safety, like a thread pulled loose from a sweater you thought was whole. I'd been living in that crumbling apartment for months, a place I could afford to call my own only because it was cheap enough to overlook the peeling paint, the drafty windows, and the way the floorboards groaned under every step. That night, I dragged myself home from work earlier than usual, my bones heavy with exhaustion. The world outside was a blur of streetlights and distant car horns, but inside, the apartment wrapped me in its familiar, musty quiet. I heated up, a plate of leftovers, the microwave humming its tired song, and sank into the sagging couch. The TV flickered with some mindless show, its glow painting the room in soft blues and grays. I wasn't even watching, not really. Just letting the noise fill the void, a temporary shield against the loneliness of the place. My eyelids grew heavy, the dim light pulling me toward sleep. I didn't plan to stay up late. Why would I? Nothing ever happens here. The bedroom was colder than the living room, the kind of chill that seeps into your skin and makes you curl tighter under the blankets. I changed into an old sweatshirt, the fabric soft from years of wear, and crawled into bed. Sleep came fast, a heavy, dreamless void. But then, something pulled me back. My eyes snapped open, heart thudding before I even knew why. The room was dark, the only light a faint sliver of street lamp sneaking through the blinds. I lay still, straining to hear, to understand what had jolted me awake. The apartment was old, always creaking and settling. But this was different. It wasn't the usual sigh of wood or the rattle of loose pipes. It was sharper, more deliberate, a rhythmic groan, like footsteps pacing somewhere beyond my bedroom. Door, listen closely now. I held my breath, the silence so thick it felt like it could crush me. There it was again, a slow, measured creak, followed by a pause, then another. It was coming from the other side of the apartment, maybe the kitchen or the living room. My mind raced, grasping for explanations. It's just the building, I told myself. Old places make noises. But the rhythm was too human, too purposeful. I sat up, the bed springs protesting under my weight, and stared at the door. It was cracked open just an inch, a sliver of black beyond it. Had I left it like that? I couldn't remember. You're safe here, I whispered to myself, and embedded, command to calm the panic rising in my chest. But the words felt hollow, like shouting into a void. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet cold against the floor. The creaking hadn't stopped. It was louder now, closer, as if whoever or whatever was out there was moving with no fear of being heard. What if it's not real? My mind flickered to a story my coworker once told me, about her childhood home where shadows moved in the corners, but no one was ever there. She'd laughed it off, called it her imagination. But this wasn't a shadow. This was real, tangible, a violation of the space I'd carved out for myself. I crept toward the door, my hand trembling as I gripped the knob. "Don't open it," a voice in my head warned, but I had to know. I had to see. The hallway stretched out before me, a narrow tunnel leading to the front door. To the left, the kitchen. To the right, the living room. The creaking was coming from the kitchen now, unmistakable, like someone pacing across the linoleum. I pressed myself against the wall, the plaster cool and rough under my palms. My heart was a drum, each beat loud enough to betray me. "You're not alone." The thought hit me like a slap, and I froze, straining to hear beyond the creaks. There, faint clatter, like a cabinet door being eased shut. Someone was in my kitchen, rummaging through my things as if they belonged here. I edged forward, my breath shallow, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and something else. Something foreign, sweat maybe, or cheap cologne. The kitchen doorway loomed ahead, a black rectangle framed by the dim glow of a street lamp filtering through the living room blinds. I peered around the corner, and that's when I saw him. A shadow in human form, moving slowly across the room. He was tall, his silhouette bulky in a loose jacket, his movements deliberate as he opened another cabinet, then closed it with a soft thud. He didn't look toward me, didn't seem to know I was there. But the sight of him, a stranger in my home touching my things, sent a wave of terror through me, so sharp it was almost physical. Run, hide, do something. But my body wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, trapped in a trance loop of fear and disbelief. This isn't happening. Yet there he was, crossing the kitchen now, his boots scuffing the floor. He paused, and for a moment I thought he'd heard me, that he'd turn and see me cowering in the dark, but he didn't. Instead, he walked into the living room, his shadow stretching across the wall. I heard the faint creak of the couch as he sat down, like he was settling in for the night. Who does that? My mind spun, conjuring images of serial killers, stalkers, people who'd watched me come and go, who knew I lived alone. I backed into my room, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. Call for help. My fingers fumbled over the screen, the light blinding in the dark. I couldn't risk a call. What if he heard me? Instead, I opened the messaging app and typed a frantic text to 911. Someone's in my apartment. Help. Now. I hit send, praying the signal would hold. The reply came almost instantly. "Officers are on the way. Stay safe. Stay safe?" How? There was a stranger in my living room sitting on my couch, and I was trapped in a bedroom with nowhere to go. Time slowed, each second a lifetime. I sank to the floor, back against the bed, clutching the phone like a lifeline. The creaking had stopped, but the silence was worse. It was heavy, oppressive, as if the apartment itself was holding its breath. I imagined him out there, waiting, listening, his eyes scanning the dark for any sign of me. What does he want? My mind flashed to another story, one I'd heard from a friend years ago, about a neighbor who came home to find a man living in her attic, watching her for weeks. Is that what this is? Had he been here before, slipping in through the unlocked balcony door, learning my routines? The balcony. Oh God, the balcony. I'd never locked the sliding door, never thought I needed to on the second floor. The realization hit me like a punch, and I stifled a gasp. That's how he got in. That's how he'd been here, moving through my space while I slept. The thought was a sensory overload, a cascade of images, his hands on my dishes, his boots on my rug, his breath in my air. He's been here before. The certainty of it made my skin crawl, as if the walls themselves were tainted by his presence. Minutes dragged on, each one an eternity. My phone buzzed softly. Officers are in the building. Relief flooded me, but it was fragile, easily shattered. I heard a faint noise from the living room. A shift, a rustle, as if he'd stood up. He knows. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I crept to the door, peering down the hallway. His shadow moved across the wall, slow and deliberate, heading toward the front door. He's leaving. But then he stopped, and the silence returned, thicker than before. You're almost safe. I clung to the thought, an anchor against the fear. Footsteps echoed outside, heavy, purposeful. The front door rattled, and I heard voices, low and urgent. The police. I sprinted down the hallway, my bare feet slapping the floor, and flung the door open. 2 officers stood there, flashlights cutting through the dark. "He's inside," I whispered, pointing toward the living room. They moved past me, shouting commands, their boots loud against the floor. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath ragged, as they stormed the apartment. It was over in seconds. They found him, still on the couch, hands raised, his face pale and unreadable in the flashlight's glare. They tackled him, cuffs clicking as they secured his wrists. I stood there, trembling as they led him out. He didn't look at me, didn't speak, but his presence lingered, a stain on the air. The officers asked me questions. Did I know him? Had I seen him before? I shook my head, my voice barely a whisper. "He came through the balcony," I said. "The door wasn't locked. They told me he'd climbed the side of the building, scaled the wall like it was nothing. He claimed he was just looking to rob a random place, but he hadn't taken anything. No bag, no tools, just him sitting there like he belonged. Why would he do that?" The question haunted me as the officers left, their radios crackling in the night. They found no evidence he'd targeted me specifically, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew I was supposed to be at work, that he'd been waiting for me to come home. Sleep never came that night. I sat on the couch, my couch, not his, staring at the balcony door, now locked tight. The apartment felt different, violated, as if it had betrayed me. I kept replaying it, the creaks, the shadow, the way he sat there, calm and patient. What was he waiting for? The uncertainty was worse than the fear, a poison that seeped into every corner of my mind. I moved out a month later, but the memory of that night clings to me, a reminder that safety is an illusion, easily shattered by a single, deliberate sound in the dark. The forest was whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. I'd driven out to the edge of nowhere, a forgotten corner of the wilderness where the trees stood like silent sentinels, and the air carried the sharp tang of pine. It was early March, the last breath of winter giving way to a tentative spring. The ground crunched with morning frost, but by midday the sun warmed my skin, coaxing me back to the trails I'd missed all season. This place was my refuge, a campsite I'd found last fall, tucked away from the world, where solitude wrapped around me like a second skin. But that evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, I saw something that made the forest feel alive and hungry. I parked my car on a gravel shoulder, the only sign of civilization for miles, and hiked 45 minutes down a narrow path. The campsite was simple, a dirt clearing with a view of the valley below where the forest stretched endless and unbroken. I set up my tent as the light faded, the sky shifting from gold to bruised purple. I liked arriving late, letting the eyesight rhythm of the wild lull me to sleep. After gathering twigs for a small fire, I wandered to the overlook, a rocky outcrop where the world fell away. The sunset was a quiet fire, painting the trees in hues of flame. I sat, letting the stillness seep into me, the kind of peace that made time dissolve. Then I saw it, a flicker of light in the valley below. At first I thought it was a trick of the dusk, a reflection of the dying sun. But no, it was real. A fire, its flames dancing among the trees not far down the hill. My breath caught. Out here, a fire was a rare thing, a deliberate act. But there was no tent, no gear, no sign of anyone tending it. Just flames, licking, hungrily at the air, surrounded by shadows. Who would leave a fire burning in the middle of nowhere? The thought gnawed at me. A campfire doesn't last long without care. Someone had built this, stacked it with wood, and walked away. Or maybe they hadn't. I stayed at the overlook, my eyes fixed on the flames. The sun vanished, plunging the forest into a twilight so deep it felt like sinking into a dream. For an hour I watched, waiting for someone to return. A hiker, a camper, anyone. But the clearing remained empty and the fire didn't die. If anything, it grew, its glow pulsing brighter as if fed by unseen hands. This wasn't an accident. The logs beneath the flames were thick, unburned, arranged to keep the blaze alive for hours, maybe all night. My pulse quickened. A fire that could swallow the forest, and I was too close. My tent a fragile speck against its hunger. I had to do something. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark like a blade, and started down the hill. The path was steep, roots snagging at my boots, the air growing colder with every step. The forest was silent save for the distant hum of the fire, a low, living sound that seemed to pulse with intent. As I neared, the glow painted the trees, in eerie shades of orange, their branches twisting like fingers reaching for the sky. I stepped into the clearing, and the fire loomed larger than I'd imagined, its heat pressing against my skin. Logs were stacked beneath it, some still unlit, as if someone had planned for this blaze to rage unchecked. Who did this? The question hung in the air unanswered, heavy with dread. I couldn't leave it burning. Grabbing handfuls of damp soil, I tossed it onto the flames, the earth hissing as it smothered the fire. My hands shook, not from the cold but from a growing sense that I wasn't alone. The forest felt too quiet, its silence a weight that pressed against my chest. I worked quickly, pulling unburned logs free, my flashlight beam darting to the trees, searching for movement. It took minutes, 5, maybe 10, but the fire died, leaving only embers and a darkness so complete it swallowed the world. I stood, my breath clouding in the chill, the beam of my flashlight trembling in my grip. I needed to leave. Back at my campsite, I began packing, my movements frantic. The forest had changed, its peace replaced by a presence I couldn't name. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, felt like eyes watching from the dark. I was halfway through folding my tent when I heard it. Footsteps slow and deliberate, crunching through the underbrush. My heart stopped. I swung my flashlight toward the sound, its beam catching the edge of a figure just beyond the clearing. They stood motionless, maybe 50 yards away, shrouded in shadow. "Who are you?" I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. "Hey," I called, forcing the words out. "Did you light that fire?" No response. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, a silhouette against the trees. I tried again, louder, my voice cracking. "I see you. Answer me." Nothing. The silence was worse than any reply, a void that swallowed my courage. "They're watching you." The thought hit like a blade, cold and sharp. I turned back to my gear, shoving it into my bag, my hands trembling. The figure stayed, a fixed point in the dark. Their presence, a weight I could feel. Don't look back, I told myself, but I couldn't help it. Each glance confirmed they were still there, unmoving, waiting. I slung my bag over my shoulder and started up the path, my flashlight sweeping the trail. The footsteps didn't follow, but I felt their gaze, a pressure on my back that didn't fade until I reached my car. I threw my gear inside, locked the doors, and fumbled for my phone. The signal was weak, but I called the police, my voice shaking as I explained. A fire left burning. A figure in the woods, watching me. They promised to send someone, but I didn't wait. I drove, the forest blurring past, its shadows stretching, long and hungry. That night, safe in my bed, the memory of the fire haunted me. I saw it in my dreams, its flames curling like fingers, beckoning me closer. I saw the figure, their face hidden, standing just beyond the light. What did they want? The police found nothing. No fire, no figure, no trace of anyone in the woods. But I knew what I'd seen, what I'd felt. Some fires burn to destroy, others burn to summon, and some shadows, once they see you, never let you go. The cold bites deeper than I expected, a sharp living thing that seeps through the cabin walls. I'm alone, tucked away in a wooden refuge near a ski resort, the fire crackling softly, its warmth a fragile shield against the winter night. Outside, the snow falls silently, blanketing the world in white. But it's not peaceful. It's suffocating, as if the forest itself is watching, waiting for me to lower my guard. Something's out there. I feel it, a shadow moving just beyond. The light. I've been staying at this cabin for a few days, a budget escape from the overpriced lodges of the ski resort nearby. The town's rural, nestled in a valley where the mountains loom like silent giants. After a long day on the slopes, I cut my skiing short as the cold turned brutal, the kind that stings your lungs and numbs your fingers. Now at 7 p.m., I'm showered, fed, and sinking into the couch by the fireplace, the glow casting long shadows across the room. The cabin's cozy but unfamiliar, its creaks and groans foreign to me, a renter in someone else's sanctuary. Pattern, interruption, footsteps, slow, deliberate crunching through the snow outside. Not the wind, not an animal, human, purposeful, coming closer. My heart skips, a jolt of adrenaline cutting through the warmth. I pause, listening, hoping it's just a neighbor, a lost skier, anything benign. The steps stop near the door, and I wait, breath held for a knock, a voice, something to break the tension. Nothing. The silence is worse, heavy with intent. I rise, moving cautiously, my socks silent on the wooden floor. The cabin's small, a single story with a front door and a few windows, all curtained against the night. I'm halfway to the door when the knock finally comes, sharp and sudden, shattering the quiet. Sensory overload. The air grows colder, the fire's heat fading as if the night itself is pressing against the walls. My pulse hammers, a drumbeat. In my ears, the door feels too thin, a flimsy barrier between me and whatever's outside. The scent of pine and smoke fills my nose, mingling with the metallic tang of fear. I hesitate, instinct screaming to stay back. But this isn't my cabin. I feel obligated to answer, to play the host. I open the door, the cold rushing in like a wave. A man stands there, late 30s, with dark hair and a thick beard, his breath clouding in the frigid air. His eyes catch the firelight, sharp and unreadable. He jumps slightly, a delayed reaction that feels staged, like a predator testing my response. "Can I help you?" I ask, voice steady despite the tremor in my chest, embedded command. "Stay. Calm. Don't show fear, keep control." He smiles too wide and asks who I am. I counter, asking the same, and he claims he booked this cabin for tonight. His voice is smooth, practiced, but his eyes don't match. They're searching, calculating. I tell him he's mistaken, that I have the place for the week. Can you show a receipt? I ask, testing him. He mumbles an excuse, something about leaving it in his car, and the lie hangs between us, brittle as ice. Trance loop. His words loop in my mind. I booked this cabin, I booked this cabin. Each repetition pulling me deeper into doubt. Is he confused, or is this a game? The snow falls heavier now, a curtain blurring the world beyond him, trapping us in this moment. I start to close the door, but he steps forward, hand on the frame. Can I come in for a minute, just to warm up while I figure this out? His smile returns, but it's wrong. A mask hiding something darker. My gut twists. Sorry, I say, firm, and shut the door, locking it with a trembling hand. I listen, expecting him to argue, to try the handle. Instead, silence, then the faint crunch of boots retreating. But it's too easy, too clean. He's not gone. I know it. Nested storytelling. My uncle told me a story once about a winter night in his youth. A stranger came to his door asking for help, claiming a broken car. He let him in, offered coffee, only to find the man's story unraveling, his eyes too hungry, his hands too restless. My uncle locked himself in his room that night, a knife under his pillow. Never trust a stranger's smile, he said. I wish I'd remembered that sooner. I returned to the couch, the TV on low. Some mindless show I'm not watching. My phone's in my hand, scrolling through nothing. A distraction from the unease gnawing at me. The fire pops, casting fleeting shadows that dance like ghosts. 2 hours pass, but the man's face lingers. His smile, his eyes, the way he blocked the door. I can't shake it. Something's wrong. I stand, drawn to the door, needing to check to be sure he's gone. The window beside it offers a view of the snowy path leading to the road. I pull the curtain aside, and my breath catches. Pattern interruption. A figure stands in the woods, just beyond the light, motionless, a silhouette against the snow. Watching, waiting. My heart slams against my ribs. It's him, or is it? The darkness blurs details, but who else could it be? The snow falls thicker, a veil hiding his face, but I feel his gaze, heavy and unyielding. I let the curtain fall, backing away, my mind racing. Why is he still here? What does he want? I grab my phone, fingers clumsy as I call the property manager. There's a man outside my cabin, I say, voice low, urgent. He tried to get in earlier, said he booked it. I don't think he's leaving. They promised to send police, but it'll take time. Out here, everything takes time. Anchoring. That figure in the woods anchors me to this moment, a memory I'll never shake. It's not just a man, it's a threat, a promise of what could have been if I'd let him in. I pace, checking windows, ensuring locks are secure. The cabin, once warm, feels exposed. Its walls too thin, its windows too many. The fire's dying, its glow fading, and the cold creeps in, mirroring the fear curling in my gut. Minutes drag, each one a lifetime. Then lights, red and blue, flashing through the curtains. Relief floods me, but it's fragile, tentative. I peer outside, seeing 2 officers moving down the path, their flashlights cutting through the snow. The man sees them too, but he doesn't run, not at first. They shout and he bolts, but they're faster, tackling him in the trees. Sensory overload. The cold air stings my face as I crack the door. The officers' voices sharp against the night silence. Snowflakes catch in my eyelashes, the scent of pine and frost overwhelming. My hands shake, not from cold, but from the weight of what I've escaped. The cops return, their faces grim. The man had a sling bag stuffed with tools, screwdrivers, a crowbar, a lockpick set, and a hunting knife. its blade glinting in their flashlight's beam. He never booked the cabin, they say. It was a lie, a ploy to get inside. His intentions? Unclear, but the tools tell a story of their own. Burglary or worse. I nod, numb, as they take him away, his silhouette fading into the night. Nested storytelling. My mom used to say, the night hides monsters, but it also shows you who you are. I ignored my instincts tonight, opened the door when I should have stayed. Back. But I listened in the end, checked the window, called for help. That choice saved me. The night revealed a monster, but it also showed me my strength. The cabin's quiet now, the fire reduced to embers, the snow still falling. But the warmth is gone, replaced by a lingering dread. I sit on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the door, half expecting another knock. The man's gone, but his presence clings to the air, a reminder that safety is fragile, that the night is never truly safe. I won't sleep tonight. I'll watch the door, the windows, the shadows, knowing that out there, in the snow, something might still be watching back. I never thought love could twist into something so monstrous, that the hands I trusted could become my cage. At 19, I was naive, clinging to the warmth of a life I'd built with Gavin in our 3-bedroom house. It was a place of mismatched furniture and scattered dreams, filled with the heavy paws of Oli, Gavin's chow chow, and the soft purrs of my cat Sterling. We'd opened our home to Lacey months ago, a friend who needed a place to crash, but her presence left a bitter aftertaste when she took advantage of us and left. That night, Gavin had just returned from a month-long work trip, his eyes distant, his voice a hollow echo of the man I loved. Something was wrong, but I didn't know how to name it. The living room was a cocoon of soft light, the TV casting shadows as we sat on the couch. I painted my nails, the sharp scent of polish mingling with the greasy aroma of takeout. Gavin played Mario Kart, his fingers mechanical on the controller, his laughter absent. Feel the moment, I told myself, trying to anchor us in normalcy. But his silence was a weight pressing against my chest. I'd noticed it all week, his inability to hold a thought, his responses trailing off into nothingness. At dinner with his mom 2 nights before, she'd watched him with worried eyes, her fork pausing mid-air. He's not himself, she'd whispered. I brushed it off then, blaming stress. But now, as he stared blankly at the screen, I felt the first stirrings of unease. You're overthinking. I pushed the thought away, focusing on the brush gliding over my nails. But then Gavin spoke, his voice low, almost a growl. Lacey put a curse on my family. The words hung in the air, sharp and surreal, like a scene from a movie I hadn't signed up for. I froze, the brush trembling in my hand. What? My mind flashed to a story my cousin once told me, about a neighbor who believed in curses, who burned sage and whispered prayers to ward off evil. But this wasn't a story. This was Gavin, his eyes glassy, his jaw tight. You're tired, I said, my voice thin. Maybe a cold shower will help. It had worked before, snapping him out of his fog. He nodded, muttering to himself, and shuffled toward the bathroom. The air shifted, grew heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I sat there, nail polish forgotten, listening to the faint hum of the TV. Something's not right. The thought looped in my mind, a trance pulling me deeper into dread. I stood, my bare feet cold against the hardwood, and walked toward the bathroom. The door was ajar, steam curling out, but Gavin's muttering was louder now, a frantic chant I couldn't decipher. Call his mom, I thought, fumbling for my phone. I needed her here, someone to ground us. But before I could dial, Gavin emerged, naked, his skin slick with water, his eyes wild. All I need is you, he shouted, his voice a blade cutting through. The quiet, run. The command pulsed in my veins, but my legs wouldn't move. Gavin's gaze locked onto me, but it wasn't me he saw. Lacey, he snarled, pointing at Oli, who stood rigid by the couch. Attack her. My heart stopped. Oli, my protector, my guard dog, whimpered, his loyalty torn. I backed away, my phone slipping from my hand as I stumbled toward the bedroom. This isn't real, but it was. Gavin's footsteps thundered behind. Me, his voice a roar. You'll pay for what you did. He grabbed me, his fingers digging into my arms, and slammed my head against the mirrored closet door. Pain exploded, stars bursting in my vision as the glass cracked. Fight. I clawed at him, my nails raking his skin, but he was stronger, his arms wrapping around my throat. I'm going to kill you, he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. The world blurred, black specks dancing in my sight. I saw Sterling on the table, his fur puffed, eyes wide with terror. I'm going to die. The thought was a scream, a sensory overload of fear and pain. My hands flailed, grasping for anything, a lamp, a book, but found nothing. Gavin's grip tightened, and I felt myself slipping, my lungs burning for air. Not like this. A memory flashed. A night months ago, Gavin holding me as I cried about a past assault. His voice soft, promising to keep me safe. How did we get here? The betrayal cut deeper than his hands. He threw me to the ground, his foot hovering over my head, ready to crush. His eyes, lifeless, pupils swallowing the iris, weren't his. Admit it, Lacey, he screamed. You know what you did? I didn't know what he wanted, but I choked out apologies, anything to make him stop. It worked, just for a moment. His foot lowered, his rage faltering. Move now. I scrambled to my feet, lunging for the front door. The screen door stuck, my hands shaking as I yanked it open. I stumbled into the February cold, barefoot in shorts and a sweater, the icy air biting my skin. I ran, house to house, pounding on doors, my screams swallowed by the night. Oli. His cry pierced the air, a sound so raw it tore through me. I fell to my knees, sobbing, knowing Gavin had killed him. He's gone. Neighbors emerged, their faces blurred by my tears. An older couple pulled me inside, their voices gentle as they called the police. I clutched their phone, dialing my mom, my words a broken sob. Gavin killed Oli. He tried to kill me. Time dissolved. Police cars swarmed the street, their lights flashing red and blue. Officers shouted through a megaphone, ordering Gavin out. He emerged, naked, blood-streaked, his hands raised. They cuffed him, his face empty, as if the man I loved had vanished. An officer approached me, his voice soft. How many dogs do you have? My heart sank. One, and a cat. They found Oli in the bathtub, his body submerged in water, the room a slaughterhouse. Sterling. Panic surged. I needed my cat, my last piece of home. Officers searched, coaxing him from under the bed, his cries echoing my own. The house was a crime scene, blood and feces staining the air. I walked in, guided by an officer, to retrieve Sterling. He was on the bed, trembling, his eyes wide with fear. I scooped him up, his warmth a fragile anchor. Gavin's mom arrived, collapsing when I told her about Oli. She lost him too. 2 weeks later, Sterling and I flew to my mom's, leaving the house behind. The court case dragged on for 2 years. Gavin got 10 months of house arrest, a slap on the wrist for shattering my world. He still texts me, blaming me for not helping him sooner. Part of me believes him. Guilt is a ghost that never leaves. I see Oli in every shadow, hear his cry in my dreams. Sterling flinches at loud noises, a mirror of my own fear. The house, once a haven, is now a nightmare, its walls stained with betrayal. What if I'd seen the signs? The question haunts me, a loop I can't escape as I wonder if I'll ever feel safe again. The city was a maze of lights, but at 2 a.m., it felt like a graveyard. I stumbled through the streets of Tempe, Arizona, the neon glow of Mill Avenue fading behind me. The night had started with laughter, shots of tequila, and friends packed into crowded bars, but somewhere between the third and fourth drink I'd wandered off. It was a habit of mine, this drunken drifting, letting the rhythm of the night carry me like a leaf on a river. My phone was dead, its screen a useless black square in my pocket. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of asphalt and distant desert. Dust. I was lost, but I didn't care. Until the sedan screeched to a stop in front of me, its headlights pinning me like a moth. I froze, my sneakers scuffing the pavement. The car had pulled across my path, aggressive, deliberate, its engine idling with a low, predatory hum. My heart kicked up, not yet with fear, but with a hazy curiosity. The driver's window was down, and in the dim streetlight I saw him, a man, large, his silhouette filling the seat. His eyes locked on mine, dark and unreadable, a stare that cut through the fog of my drunkenness. Most people would have run or shouted, but I was too far gone, the alcohol dulling the edges of instinct. Just keep walking, I thought, but my body had other plans. I raised a hand, gave a sloppy wave, and grinned. "Hey man, what's good?" His face shifted, a flicker of confusion crossing it, like I'd spoken a language he didn't know. He leaned forward, his arm resting on the wheel, a bandage wrapped tight around his forearm, stained faintly with something dark. "Where you going?" he asked, his voice low, gravelly, like stones grinding together. I shrugged, the world tilting slightly. "My buddy's place, somewhere north. I'm kinda lost." He paused, his gaze sliding over me, measuring. Then with a nod he said, "Get in." Get in. The words hung in the air, simple but heavy, like a door creaking open to a place I shouldn't enter. I should have said no, should have kept stumbling, through the night. But I was drunk, reckless, and the idea of walking miles in the dark felt worse than the unknown of his car. I circled to the passenger side, the door handle cool under my fingers, and slid in. The interior smelled of leather, and something sharp, metallic. Up close he was even more imposing, tattoos snaking up his neck, a pistol tucked into the waistband of his shorts, its handle glinting in the dashboard light. "You're fine," I told myself, ignoring the prickle of unease. "He's just a guy." I gave him vague directions, piecing together half-remembered street names. The car rolled forward, the city blurring past, its light smearing into streaks of color. I was chatty when I drank, words spilling out like water, and I leaned into it, filling the silence. "Rough night?" I asked, nodding at his bandaged arm. He glanced at me, then back at the road. "You could say that." His voice was flat, but there was something beneath it, a current I couldn't quite read. I kept talking about the bars, the music, anything to keep the air light. And then he started talking too. He'd just gotten out of the hospital, he said, a gunshot wound that still throbbed under the bandage. His girl had left him, fed up with the life he led, gangs, gunfights, the kind of trouble that followed him like a shadow. She didn't get it, he said, his hands tightening on the wheel. "This is who I am." I nodded, the alcohol making me bold, sympathetic. "That's tough, man, you'll bounce back." But then his voice dropped, and the air in the car changed, growing thick, heavy. I was pissed tonight, driving around, looking for someone to rob. Then I saw you. My breath caught, but my face didn't show it. The words landed like stones in still water, rippling through my drunken haze. I thought of the $200 in my wallet, the way his pistol sat just inches away. Stay calm, I told myself, my mind racing to catch up. Damn, that's rough, I said, my voice steady, almost casual. But you're out here, still pushing. You got dreams? He looked at me, surprised, like no one had ever asked. Yeah, he said after a moment. Want to be a rapper. Got some tracks, but it's hard to break in. I latched onto it, urging him on. You gotta do it, man. Put that pain into the music. We talked like that for 10, maybe 15 minutes, the car weaving through quiet streets. The danger was still there, a pulse beneath his words, but my chatter seemed to, hold it at bay. When we pulled up to my friend's house, a squat bungalow with a sagging porch, I felt a rush of relief. You made it. I could have said thanks and bolted, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was the strange connection we'd forged in that car. Want to come in? I asked, the words out before I could think. Smoke a little? He raised an eyebrow, then nodded. Yeah, I'm down. Inside, my friends were sprawled across the living room, music thumping low. Their eyes widened when they saw him. Tattoos, bandages, the air of someone who didn't belong in their cozy chaos. This is my ride, I said, the explanation sounding absurd even to me. They nodded, wary but too chill to make a scene. We headed to my buddy's room, a cluttered space at the end of a hall, where a massive safe sat in the closet, its door glinting under the light. That's a mistake, I thought, but it was too late. He followed us in, his presence filling the room like smoke. As we settled, he did something that made my stomach lurch. He reached into his waistband, pulled out the pistol, and set it on the safe, right in front of everyone. The room went still. No one spoke, but I saw the tension in their faces, the way their eyes flicked to the gun, then to him. He's showing he won't use it, I told myself. But the gesture felt like a test, a line drawn in the sand. I forced a laugh, passing a joint. Let's chill, yeah? My friends played along, their voices tight but steady, and slowly the air softened. We smoked, the haze curling around us, and he started talking again, about music, about his tracks, about a life that felt miles from this room. My friends warmed to him, their shared love of beats bridging the gap. For a moment it felt almost normal, like he was just another guy, not someone who'd planned to rob me an hour ago. But the gun was still there, a silent reminder. After a while he stood, picked up the pistol and tucked it back into his shorts. Good hanging with y'all, he said. And just like that he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. We sat in silence, the music still playing, the joint burning low. What the hell was that? My buddy finally asked, his voice shaking. I told them everything, his confession, the gun, the robbery he didn't commit. They stared at me, half in awe, half in horror. It could have gone so wrong. The safe held thousands in cash, a temptation he'd ignored. Or maybe he hadn't ignored it. Maybe he'd waited and chosen to walk away. That night, as I lay on the couch, the city's hum filtering through the windows, I replayed it all. His face, his voice, the way the pistol gleamed. Was it kindness that saved me, or something else? In my dreams, I saw him driving through endless streets, his eyes searching, his gun ready. Some shadows pass you by, but some linger, their weight a quiet warning of what might have been. The dusk wraps our quiet neighborhood in a soft, deceptive glow, but something's wrong tonight. I'm 7, maybe 8, clutching my brother's hand as we walk home from the triplets' house down the street. The air smells of cut grass and fading summer, but beneath it there's a chill, a whisper of something watching from the shadows. The street lights flicker on, casting pools of light that feel too small, too fragile, against the creeping dark. I don't know why, but my skin prickles, as if the night itself is holding its breath, waiting for us to stumble. We've just moved to this suburban cul-de-sac in America, a place where every house looks the same. Neat lawns, white fences, the hum of normalcy. My friends, the triplets, live 4 houses down, and every evening I play at their place until my brother, older by a few years, comes to fetch me. He's 11 or 12, lanky and confident, always teasing me with pranks. Tonight, the sky's a bruised purple, the sun barely gone, and the street feels emptier than usual. No kids on bikes, no neighbors chatting. Just us, our sneakers scuffing the sidewalk, and the weight of an unseen gaze. Pattern interruption, a glance over his shoulder. My brother's face tightens, his teasing grin gone. He's seen something, someone, behind us. My heart skips, a flutter of fear I don't understand. "What's wrong?" I whisper, but he doesn't answer. His grip on my hand tightens, pulling me faster. I look back, but the street's empty, just shadows stretching long and thin. He's always pulling tricks. Once he convinced me our sister crashed her car into the ocean, but this feels different. His eyes dart, scanning the houses, the fences, the darkening corners. "Keep walking," he says, voice low, urgent. I obey, my small legs struggling to match his stride, the world tilting into something strange, dreamlike. Sensory overload. The air grows heavy, thick with the scent of dew and asphalt. My pulse races, a frantic rhythm in my ears. The streetlights buzz faintly, their light cold, clinical, revealing nothing but more shadows. My sneakers catch on a crack, the jolt sending a shiver up my spine, as if the ground itself is warning me. We're halfway home when he stops, abrupt, yanking me off the sidewalk. "Get down!" he hisses, pushing me between 2 houses behind a tall wooden fence that separates their backyards. The grass is damp, soaking my knees as we crouch, hidden. My breath comes in shallow gasps, fear coiling in my chest. "What's happening?" I ask, voice trembling. He presses a finger to his lips, eyes wide, fixed on the gap between the houses. "Someone's following us," he whispers, barely audible. "Stay quiet." Embedded. Command. "Stay still. Don't move. Be invisible." My body obeys, frozen. But my mind races, picturing monsters from stories, faceless figures lurking in the dark. I want to cry, to run, but his hand on my shoulder anchors me, a silent promise that he'll keep me safe. Trance, loop, the night, pulses around us, a rhythm of fear. Wait, listen, wait, listen. The fence creaks faintly in the breeze, the sound looping in my mind, pulling me deeper into this moment. This hiding place where the world feels unreal, a nightmare I can't escape. I peek through a crack in the fence, heart pounding. The sidewalks, empty, but then movement. A figure, tall and lean, steps into view, pausing at the edge of a streetlight's glow. He wears a black hoodie, the hood up, dark sweatpants, and white sneakers that gleam unnaturally. But it's his face, or what I can see of it, that stops my breath. His jaw hangs open, unnaturally wide like a broken hinge, swaying slightly. As he stands there staring down the street, it's wrong, inhuman. A sight that burns into my memory, turning my fear into something primal, ancient, anchoring. That jaw, dangling, broken, becomes a symbol of this night. A memory that will haunt me for years. A reminder that monsters can wear human skin. I choke back a gasp, and my brother pulls me closer, his own fear mirroring mine. "Don't look," he whispers. But it's too late. The man moves, stepping off the sidewalk, following our path between the houses. He's closer now, maybe 3 houses down, standing by another fence, his head tilted as if listening. My vision blurs, tears welling, but I can't look away. Is he sick? Drugged? Or something worse, something not human? My child's mind spins tales of demons, but the reality feels more terrifying, because he's real, here, hunting us. Nested storytelling. My sister once told me about a man she saw at the park years ago before we moved here. He stood by the swings, staring at kids, his mouth open like he was screaming. But no sound came out. She ran home, never told Mom, but she never went back to that park. I thought it was just a story to scare me, but now, hiding here, I wonder if it was the same man, if he's been watching us all along. We need to run, my brother says, voice shaking but firm. To the house now. I nod, legs trembling, and he pulls me up. We burst from our hiding spot, sprinting across backyards, leaping over low fences, the night blurring around us. My lungs burn, my heart a frantic drum, but I don't look back. I can't. The house is close, its lights a beacon of safety. We reach the backyard, sliding open the glass door to the lower apartment we rent. I fumble with the lock, hands shaking, and slam it shut, my brother beside me, panting. Pattern interruption. He's there, outside in the yard, just beyond the glass, staring with that broken jaw, his eyes empty, unblinking. My scream catches in my throat, a silent plea. He's closer than I thought, maybe 10 feet away, motionless, his hoodie blending with the night. My brother grabs my arm, pulling me back, and we run upstairs, shouting for our sister, our mom. There's a man outside, I cry, words tumbling out, incoherent. Mom's face pales and she grabs the phone, dialing 911, her voice steady but tight. My sister holds me, whispering it'll be okay, but her eyes are wide, scared. Nested. Storytelling. My dad told us about a night in his old town, when he was a kid. A stranger wandered the streets, muttering, his face twisted in a way no one could explain. The town locked their doors, and the man vanished by morning. Dad said some people carry darkness inside them, a kind you can't see until it's too late. I feel that darkness now, staring through our glass door. The police don't come that night. Too busy, Mom says. But the next day, something happens. Dad's at his warehouse, a place with a small living area upstairs. We're there, waiting, for him to finish work when he calls us to the back window. Police cars surround the yard, officers combing the grass, a white van parked near the woods. Dad's voice is low, shaken. They found a man, he says, and a woman, in that phone. The man, his mouth was hanging open just like you said. He won't say more, won't tell us about the woman, but his eyes are haunted, like he's seen something he can't unsee. Sensory overload. The warehouse smells of oil and dust, the air thick with tension. The police lights flash red and blue, painting the walls, their radios crackling with urgent voices. My hands grip the windowsill, cold metal biting my palms, as the night's fear floods back, sharper, realer. They arrest the man for trespassing, but no one tells us more. Was the woman hurt? Dead? I don't know, and part of me doesn't want to. My brother, now a medical student, says it was probably a condition, a drug, something explainable. But I don't believe it. That jaw, those eyes, they weren't human. They were something else. Something that saw us, wanted us. The neighborhoods, safe they say, but I don't feel it. I see him in my dreams, standing in the yard, his jaw swaying, his gaze pulling me into the dark. Some secrets hide in plain sight, watching you from the shadows of the ordinary. High school was a maze of noise and chaos, but Alyssa was its queen. A senior, she glided through the halls with a confidence I could only dream of. Her laughter, bright, her style effortless. As a shy underclassman, I watched her from afar, my heart swelling with admiration. She's untouchable, I'd think, sketching her name in the margins of my notebook. My world was smaller, quieter, confined to textbooks and fleeting friendships. So when a folded slip of paper fluttered out of my locker one crisp autumn afternoon, my breath caught. Someone noticed me. The note was simple, written in neat looping handwriting. "You were beautiful in that dress on Friday." A tiny heart dotted the end, a spark of warmth in the cold metal of my locker. I stood there, the hallway buzzing around me, my fingers tracing the words. Who wrote this? My mind spun, conjuring images of a secret admirer, maybe a boy too shy to speak, or a friend playing a prank. I tucked the note into my pocket, its weight a quiet thrill against my hip. Feel this moment, I told myself, an embedded command to savor the mystery. But as I walked to class, a faint unease stirred, like a whisper I couldn't quite hear. Days turned to weeks, and the notes kept coming, always slipped into my locker during fourth period. I'd check religiously, my heart racing as I opened the door, half expecting nothing, half hoping for more. Your smile lights up the hallway. You shine brighter than any star. Your homecoming photos are straight out of a magazine. Each one was a brushstroke of praise, painting me as someone special, someone seen. I'd lie in bed at night, the notes spread across my quilt, reading them under the soft glow of my lamp. Someone's watching you. The thought was thrilling, but it carried a shadow, a question I couldn't shake. How do they know so much? You're safe here. I clung to the idea, pushing away the unease. My friends were oblivious. I didn't tell them, didn't want their teasing to scare off whoever was leaving these gifts. But my mind wandered, spinning stories. Once, a classmate told me about her sister, who found love letters in her mailbox only to discover they were from a neighbor who'd watched her for years. That's not this, I told myself, but the seed was planted, its roots curling into my thoughts. I started noticing details in the notes, mentions of my field hockey games, my outfits, even a post I'd shared on Facebook. They're close, I realized, my pulse quickening. The school was a labyrinth of faces, each one a potential author. I watched my classmates searching for clues, a lingering glance, a nervous smile. I wondered if it was a freshman girl, someone like me, too shy to speak, but bold on paper, or maybe a boy, his courage confined to ink. Notice everything. The command looped in my mind, a trance pulling me deeper into the mystery. I'd linger by my locker before fourth period, pretending to organize my books, my eyes scanning the Yauber crowd. But no one stood out, no one betrayed themselves. The notes were a ghost slipping through my fingers. Winter brought a schedule change, and with it, a twist. My last class moved upstairs, near my friend Emma's locker, while hers was near mine. We swapped, a practical trade that felt inconsequential. I forgot about the notes, their rhythm disrupted by exams and holiday plans. But on my 18th birthday, Emma found me in the cafeteria, her face a mix of confusion and excitement. "This was in your locker," she said, handing me a folded paper. "Happy birthday, princess." My stomach dropped. The handwriting was the same, the heart unmistakable. "They're still watching. Who are you?" The question burned as Emma pressed me for answers. I confessed about the notes, their frequency, their eerie precision. My friends turned detective, their curiosity a wildfire. Emma stationed herself by the lockers during fourth period, her eyes sharp, her phone ready to snap a photo. Days passed, the hallway a blur of backpacks and chatter. Then, one afternoon, she pulled me aside, her voice low. "It's not a kid," she said. "It's her." She nodded toward the janitor's closet, where a woman in her 50s stood, her gray hair tied back, her hands pushing a mop. The janitor. No. My mind rejected it, but the truth was a flood. She'd been there all along, invisible in her Navy uniform, her presence as familiar as the hum of the fluorescent lights. Emma had seen her slip a note into my old locker, her movements quick, practiced. She's been watching me. The realization was a sensory overload, a cascade of images, her eyes following me in the halls, her hands scribbling my life into notes, her quiet steps trailing my own. I remembered seeing her at my last field hockey game, sitting alone in the stands, her face unreadable. How did I not notice? "You're still safe?" The lie crumbled as I walked the halls, my skin prickling under an unseen gaze. My friends debated, confronting her, but I couldn't. She hadn't broken any rules, hadn't threatened me, but her silence was a threat in itself. What does she want? The question looped, a trance of fear and fascination. I started checking my surroundings, my locker, my social media. Every post felt exposed, every step watched. She knows too much. My homecoming dress, my birthday, my smile. She'd claimed them all, her notes a map of my life. The school year ended, but the unease lingered. I'd catch glimpses of her, mopping floors, emptying trash, her eyes never meeting mine. Does she know I know? The thought was a ghost, haunting my dreams. I told my mom, who called it harmless. A lonely woman's way of connecting. But it wasn't harmless. It was an invasion, a theft of my privacy wrapped in flattery. "You'll never be alone." The notes stopped, but their weight remained, a reminder that safety is fragile, that eyes can follow you from the shadows of the ordinary. The desert highway was a ribbon of dreams, stretching into the void where stars burned cold. In the 1980s, Kay Whitaker drove alone through Arizona's desolate heart, her old Chevy humming under the weight of a long trip. She was 22, caught in the fragile space between her parents' home and a future with her boyfriend, a law student in Las Vegas. The road was her bridge, a path of cracked asphalt flanked by endless sand and scrub, where hours dissolved into a haze of radio static and sun-bleached dunes. She sang along, the music a tether to the living world, her voice bright against the silence. But 2 hours in, a shadow crept into her rear view. A dark sedan, its presence a stain on the empty. Route at first, Kay barely noticed. The car was a speck, a flicker in the vastness, trailing her at a distance. She adjusted the radio, let the melody carry her forward, the desert blurring past in waves of heat. But the sedan grew closer, its shape sharpening, moving with a hunger that didn't belong. Her fingers tightened on the wheel, the song faltering on her lips. In the mirror, she saw it. Close now, too close, its headlights flaring in sharp, insistent bursts. A hand emerged from the driver's window, pointing at her car, then gesturing to the side, urging her to pull over. Her pulse quickened, a drumbeat of unease. Something's wrong with my car, she thought, her mind grasping for reason. A flat tire? A loose part? She slowed, scanning the road for a safe spot, her eyes darting between the asphalt and the mirror. Then it came, a voice, sharp and clear inside her head. "Don't pull over." The words weren't hers, weren't spoken, but they struck like lightning, flooding her with a fear so raw it stole her breath. She froze, foot hovering over the brake. "Don't stop." The voice came again, louder, a command. From some hidden part of her soul, or maybe something beyond it. Her hands trembled, but she obeyed, slamming the gas pedal, the Chevy lurching forward. The sedan followed, its engine roaring, its headlights a relentless tide in her mirror. What does he want? The question clawed at her, but the voice in her had answered only with silence, urging her to keep moving. The desert closed in, its vastness no longer freeing but suffocating, a place where screams would vanish into the sand. Kay gripped the wheel, her knuckles white, sweat beading on her brow despite the evening chill. The sedan stayed close, its driver still flashing, still gesturing, a shadow that refused to relent. She pushed the car harder, the speedometer climbing, the tires humming a desperate song of their own. But doubt crept in, a poison seeping through her resolve. What if my car really is broken, she wondered. Out here, before cell phones, a breakdown meant death, stranded under a sky that offered no mercy. She eased off the gas just a touch, testing the moment. The sedan seized the chance. It surged forward, pulling into the oncoming lane, drawing level with her. Kay's breath caught as she turned, her eyes meeting his. The driver was a man, his face gaunt, his hair slick with grease. He smiled, but it was a smile, a crooked slash across his face, missing teeth gleaming in the dusk light. His eyes were dark, empty, a void that seemed to pull at her, promising nothing but ruin. "Pull over," he mouthed, the word silent but unmistakable, his gaze locking with hers. Pure evil. The thought hit her like a physical blow, a sickening twist in her gut. The voice in her head roared again, urgent, unyielding. "Don't pull over." She obeyed, flooring the gas, the Chevy screaming as it shot forward. The sedan didn't give up. He matched her speed, his car weaving dangerously close, trying to nudge her off the road. Kay screamed, tears blurring her vision, her hands shaking, so violently she could barely steer. The desert was a blur now, the dunes rising like waves, the sky a blood-red scar above. He pressed closer, his bumper grazing hers, the metal shrieking in protest. She swerved, fighting to stay on the road, her heart a wild thing in her chest. He's going to kill me. The realization was a weight, cold and final, but she clung to the voice, to its promise of survival. Time stretched, each second an eternity. In this deadly chase, her arms ached, her throat raw from gasping breaths. Then through the haze she saw them. 2 semi-trucks, their headlights cutting through the twilight like beacons. Get to them. The thought was her own, but it carried the same fierce clarity as the voice. She pushed the Chevy to its limit, the engine groaning, the speedometer needle trembling. The sedan stayed with her, its driver relentless, his face a cool, constant shadow in her mirror. But the trucks were closer now, their bulk a promise of safety. Kay aimed for the gap between them, weaving through the narrow space, her car dwarfed by their steel walls. She glanced back, heart pounding, and saw the sedan falter, slowing, its headlights dimming as it fell behind. Then, like a nightmare, dissolving, it was gone. Kay stayed with the trucks, their steady rumble a lifeline until the road felt safe again. She drove for hours, her body shaking, her mind a tangle of fear and relief. At a gas station, she pulled over, the fluorescent lights harsh against her senses. She cut off the engine, leaned against the steering wheel, and sobbed, the terror pouring out of her like a dam breaking. The desert was still out there, vast and silent, but she was alive. Alive. Years passed. Kay married her boyfriend, settled in Las Vegas, became a mother of 3. The highway chase became a story she told rarely, a memory buried beneath the rhythm of family life. But she was drawn to true crime, to the TV screen flickering with tales of unsolved horrors. One afternoon, folding laundry, she heard a voice from the living room, an interview with a death row inmate. She paused, a sock in hand as the man described his method, waiting on highways, targeting lone women, flashing lights to lure them over. I'd tell them something was wrong with their car, he said, his voice flat. They'd stop. I'd pull some wires, then I'd offer a ride. He'd assault them, kill them, bury them where no one would find them. How many? The interviewer asked. He laughed. Too many got away, maybe 2 or 3. Kay moved to the living room, her steps slow, dread pooling in her chest. The man's face filled the screen, gaunt, greasy, with a smile missing teeth. Those eyes, she knew them, had felt their weight on a desert road long ago. Henry Lee Lucas, a name that burned into her soul. She stood frozen, the laundry forgotten, staring into the face of the monster she'd escaped. Some roads lead you home, others to a truth so dark it never lets you go. The summer sun hangs low, painting the country road in shades of gold, but its warmth can't touch the exhaustion in my bones. I'm driving home, miles from anywhere, the hum of my tires a lullaby after hours lost in the wilderness. The fields stretch endless, empty, their silence comforting yet eerie, as if the world's paused, waiting for something to break it. Then I see him, a lone figure on the roadside, thumb out, his shadow long and jagged. Something about him feels wrong, like a crack in a perfect dream. But I slow down anyway, my heart too soft to pass by. I'm no stranger to long days outdoors. Today was a hike gone wrong, miles through trackless woods, my legs aching, my water long gone. Now at dusk I'm 15 miles from home, a small house tucked in the rural folds of this quiet county. The man on the road looks worn, his clothes dusty, his posture heavy. He's overweight, out of shape, a fellow traveler who's had a rough day, just like me. I pull over, motioning for him to climb in, my empathy overriding the faint warning in my gut. The door opens and he squeezes into the passenger seat, his presence filling the car with a strange, heavy air, pattern interruption. His arm catches the light, a prosthetic hard plastic ending in a metal hook that gleams like a blade. My breath catches, the ordinary moment twisting into something sharp, unsettling. He nods a greeting, his voice gruff but polite. Going just up the road, he says, naming a spot not far from my route. I nod, pulling back onto the highway. The engine's hum the only sound for a moment. The car smells of sweat and leather, the air thick with the day's heat. His prosthetic arm rests on his lap, the hook glinting as we pass under streetlights. I glance at it, then away, not wanting to stare. He notices, though, and chuckles, a low, raspy sound. Lost it years ago, he says. Construction accident. Don't worry, I'm harmless. Sensory overload. The car feels smaller, the air heavier, laced with the scent of dust and something metallic like old coins. My hands grip the wheel, slick with sweat. The road ahead blurring as my pulse quickens. The hook's reflection dances in the corner of my eye, a constant silent threat. I force a smile, asking where he's headed. He talks slowly, his words painting a picture of a life unraveling, a construction worker out of a job, his house facing foreclosure, squatting in his own basement to avoid the sheriff. His voice is steady, but there's an edge, a bitterness that makes the hairs on my neck stand up. To fill the silence, I share a story of my own, a tale of a stormy night in the mountains, a narrow escape from a flooded trail. He listens, nodding, his hook tapping lightly against his thigh, a rhythm that sets my nerves on edge. Embedded. Command. Stay calm. Keep talking. Don't let him see your fear. I focus on the road, the yellow line's a lifeline. But my mind's racing, picking up details, His heavy breathing, the way his eyes flick toward me, assessing. Then he starts his story, and the air shifts, growing colder. Years back, he says, during a blizzard, worst one in a century, a woman crashed near my place. Bad wreck, blood everywhere, barely alive. He pauses, his hook still, his gaze distant as if he's seeing it again. Roads were iced over, no way to drive her to a hospital. So I loaded her in the bucket of my backhoe, drove 30 miles, through the storm to the ER. Saved her life. His voice is proud, but something's off. The details too neat, the story too polished, like a lie he's told before. Trance loop. His words loop in my mind. Saved her life. Saved her life. Pulling me into a haze where truth and lies blur. The car's a cocoon. The world outside fading, leaving only his voice, his hook, his story that doesn't add up. I'm street smart, have seen enough of the world to spot a con. The backhoe, the blizzard, it's too cinematic, too convenient. My gut whispers a darker truth. Maybe there was a woman, maybe she was hurt, but I doubt she made it to any hospital. I picture a shallow grave, the backhoe's bucket clawing frozen earth, her body hidden where no one would look. I shake the thought, but it clings, a shadow in my mind. That's wild, I say, keeping my tone light, but my hands tighten. On the wheel, nested storytelling. My dad once told me about a hitchhiker he picked up years ago. The guy seemed normal, shared a sad story about a lost job, a sick kid. But when Dad dropped him off, he saw a knife slip from the man's coat, glinting in the moonlight. Dad drove away, never reported it, but he never picked up another stranger. Some people carry lies like weapons, he said. I wish I'd remembered that before I stopped today. We're nearing his turnoff, a long driveway leading to a rundown house, its windows dark, the yard overgrown. He shifts, his tone changing, softer, suggestive. You're a good guy, he says, leaning closer. His hook inches from my arm. Ever thought about hanging out? Just you and me? The words are casual, but his eyes are hungry, predatory, stripping away the friendly mask. My stomach twists, fear spiking sharp and cold. Pattern interruption. He's not asking. He's demanding, his hook raised slightly, a silent threat that freezes the air between us. I laugh, a forced sound, and say, "Not my thing, man." But he doesn't back off, his gaze locked on mine, unyielding. The cars stop now, idling, in his driveway, and he's not getting out. His prosthetic arm hovers, solid as a club, and I know, if I blink, if I look away, he'll strike. I've trained in self-defense, know how to read intent, and his screams danger. My seatbelts, only his isn't. I have a plan, floor it, crash into his house, send him through the windshield. The noise would bring neighbors, maybe save me even if I'm hurt. But it's a last resort, a desperate gamble. Anchoring. That hook, glinting in the dashboard light, anchors me to this moment. A symbol of the danger I've invited into my car, a memory that will haunt every quiet road I drive. I hold his gaze, my eyes steady, showing I'm ready to fight. Time to go, I say, voice hard. Seconds pass, an eternity. Then he blinks, opens the door, and steps out, his hook catching the frame as he leaves. I reverse fast, tires spinning, and speed away, his silhouette shrinking in the rear view. My heart's pounding, but I'm alive. Free. I consider calling the police, reporting the threat, but what would I say? He didn't attack, didn't break a law, and I'm tired, drained, just wanting to forget. So I drive home, the night swallowing my fear. Sensory overload. The car smells of fear and gasoline, the steering wheel slick under my palms. The road hums beneath me, a lifeline pulling me back to safety. but the darkness presses close, whispering of what could have been. Years later, I drive past that house again. Police cars swarm the property, crime scene tape fluttering, a helicopter circling overhead. A woman's gone missing, her body later found in a pond, locked in a freezer from that house. The man, my hitchhiker, and his partner are in prison, not for her, but for other crimes. I learn his name, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the guilt, heavy as his hook, that I didn't report him. Maybe I could have stopped it, saved her. I called the police after, told them about his story, the backhoe, the woman he claimed to save. They searched again but found nothing. The truth's buried, like she was, and I'm left with the weight of my silence. Nested storytelling. My mom used to say, "See something, say something." She told me about a neighbor who ignored a stranger lurking in their alley, only to learn he'd broken into a house the next night. I ignored her wisdom that day, too tired, too selfish. Now, I carry the cost, a lesson carved in regret. The road's still there, stretching through the fields, but I don't drive it anymore. Every shadow feels like him, every glint a hook, waiting to pull me back into that night. I survived, but part of me didn't. Trust, kindness, the belief that I can outrun my mistakes. The hitchhiker's gone, but his story lingers, a warning that some truths are too heavy to carry alone. The quiet of dusk can hide a predator, its breath warm against the back of your neck. I was alone in my boyfriend's house, a squat, weathered place nestled at the foot of a hill in Northern California. The air was thick with the scent of pine and dust, the kind that clings to your skin in early August. I'd agreed to watch the place while he was off backpacking, a task that felt simple enough. Feed the dogs, keep the lights on, breathe in the solitude. Hennessy, a 115-pound Bulldog Labrador mix, was all muscle and loyalty, his black fur gleaming like polished obsidian. Lottie, my poodle mix, was a 57-pound fluff ball, her silly haircuts and bows making her look more like a stuffed toy than a guard. They're my shield, I thought, their presence a comfort in this half-wild place. The neighborhood was a paradox, rural yet close-knit with tidy homes pressed against crumbling abandoned ones. The highway hummed nearby, its drone a constant reminder of the world beyond the trees. I'd fallen into a routine. Walk Lottie first, her small frame easy to manage, then take Hennessy out as the sun dipped low, his strength a reassurance in the gathering dark. That evening, the sky burned orange, the heat lingering like a heavy hand. I clipped Lottie's leash, her tail wagging as we stepped onto the gravel path. Feel the calm, I told myself, an embedded command to soak in the fading light. But the air felt wrong, too still, as if the world was holding its breath. You're not alone. The thought hit me halfway through the walk, a prickle at the base of my neck. I glanced back, my heart stuttering. There, maybe 30 feet away, stood a man, tall and lean, his face hidden under a hoodie. A hoodie in August? The sight was jarring, the fabric too heavy for the evening's warmth. He lingered by a dilapidated house, its windows dark, its roof sagging. Just a neighbor, I reasoned, but my pulse quickened. I'd read too many stories, tales of women followed, of instincts ignored. A friend once told me about a night she walked home, sensing eyes on her, only to find a man trailing her. Steps. That's not this, I insisted. But doubt crept in, a shadow at the edge of my mind. Keep moving. I tugged Lottie's leash, her paws crunching the gravel as we turned a corner. The sun sank lower, painting the street in long, jagged shadows. I stole another glance behind me. He was still there, matching my pace, his stride deliberate. He's following you. The realization was a cold blade slicing through my denial. I quickened my steps, Lottie trotting to keep up, her ears twitching. The man stayed 30 feet back, a constant, unyielding presence. I turned another corner, then another, hoping to lose him in the maze of quiet streets. But he followed, his silhouette a specter in the dusk. Stay alert. My mind looped, a trance of fear and focus. The highway loomed ahead, its asphalt shimmering with heat. I crossed just as a car sped by, the roar drowning out my thoughts. He won't follow. But he did. His figure reappearing on the other side, closer now, the gap shrinking. Lottie sensed it too, her body tensing, a low growl rumbling in her throat. The house was close, its porch light a faint beacon. I broke into a jog, my sneakers pounding the gravel, my breath ragged. You're almost there. The command anchored me, pulling me towards safety. I reached the door, my hands fumbling with the keys. Lottie pressed against my legs, her growls louder now. I shoved the key in, the lock turning with a soft click. We slipped inside, and I slammed the door, my fingers trembling as I twisted the bolt. You're safe. But the relief shattered when the handle rattled, a sharp, insistent tug from the other side. He's here. My heart lurched, a sensory overload, of panic flooding my senses, the metallic tang of fear, the damp heat of my palms, the faint scent of Lottie's fur. Hennessy stirred, his massive frame rising from the rug, his eyes locked on the door. Who's there? I shouted, my voice cracking. Lottie barked, sharp and frantic, while Hennessy's growl was a deep, primal warning. Through the thin wood, a man's voice came, flat and rehearsed. I love your dog. Can I meet her? The words were wrong, stripped of warmth, like lines read from a script. He's lying. My skin crawled, the hairs on my arms standing upright. No, I yelled. Go away. Silence followed, heavy and oppressive. Then the handle rattled again, harder this time. The door shuddering under his weight. He's not leaving. Act now. The command surged through me, raw and urgent. I grabbed Lottie, shoving her into the bathroom, her barks echoing off the tiles. Hennessy was at my side, his muscles taut, his teeth bared. The man spoke again, his voice a chilling echo. I love your dog. Can I meet her? The door groaned. As he pushed against it, the wood creaking under the strain. He'll break through. My hand found Hennessy's collar, his strength a lifeline. I unlocked the door, my heart pounding, and opened it just enough for him to lunge forward, his jaws snapping at the air. The man stumbled back, his curse sharp in the night. He didn't expect this. Hennessy strained against my grip, his growls a thunderous roar, his teeth flashing in the porch light. The man scrambled, nearly falling, his hoodie slipping to reveal a pale, angular face, eyes wide with shock. He didn't look at me, didn't speak, just turned and ran, his footsteps fading up the hill. I pulled Hennessy inside, slamming my hands shaking as I locked it again. He's gone, but the fear lingered, a poison in my veins. You're still here. I sank to the floor, Hennessy's warmth pressed against me, Lottie's soft whines drifting from the bathroom. I grabbed my phone, dialing 911, my voice trembling as I recounted the night. The man, the hoodie, the door. The operator was calm, her questions grounding me, but the police found nothing when they arrived. No footprints, no trace, just my story and the dog's unease. He could come back. The thought was a loop, a trance of dread I couldn't escape. I held Hennessy close, his steady breathing a reminder of my survival. The next day, I drove an hour to a pet store buying Hennessy. The biggest bone I could find, his reward for being my savior. Lottie got a new toy, her innocence a balm for my nerves. But the house felt different, its walls too thin, its solitude a threat. What if he knew? My mind flashed to another story, told by a co-worker, about a woman who found scratches on her. Door signs of someone testing her locks. Is that him? I checked the windows, the doors, my eyes scanning the hill for a hooded figure. Sleep came in fragments, broken by every rustle, every shadow. Safety is a lie. 4 days later, the fear still clings to me. A second skin I can't shed. Hennessy stays close, his eyes watchful, while Lottie curls up beside me, unaware of the danger we faced. I wonder if the man mistook Lottie's barks for Hennessy's. If he thought he could overpower us, he was wrong. But the what-ifs haunt me. What if I'd been alone? What if Hennessy hadn't been there? The dusk is no longer a comfort. It's quiet, a mask for something sinister, waiting just beyond the light. The stars were watching, but they offered no protection. 5 years ago, I fled to my sanctuary, a forgotten parking lot off an old Midwest highway, tucked away in the rural heart of Iowa. I was 33, a child of these quiet lands, where cornfields whispered and back roads wound like veins through the earth. That night my world had cracked open. A fight with my girlfriend over her drunken friends and my early work shift spiraling into shouts and slammed doors. I needed escape, the kind only solitude could give. So I drove, the city fading behind me, until the road became a ribbon of asphalt under a sky heavy with stars. But in places like this, the dark has a way of finding you. The lot was a relic, barely 10 spaces carved from the woods, with 2 picnic tables weathered by time and a lone trash can standing sentinel. It was hidden, easy to miss unless you knew where to look, surrounded by pines that leaned in close, their shadows thick and still. As a teenager, I'd spent nights here, laughing with friends, the air thick with cigarette smoke and rebellion. Those memories clung to the place, a promise of peace when life grew heavy. I pulled in, my Sonata's headlights sweeping the empty lot, and felt a wave of relief. No other cars, no one to disturb my quiet. I cut the engine, stepped out, and let the night swallow me. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. I settled at a picnic table, lit a menthol cigarette, and tilted my head to the stars. They glittered, cold and distant, a map of a world beyond my own. The fight replayed in my mind, her laughter, their noise, my anger. But the silence here softened it, smoothing the edges of my hurt. I exhaled, the smoke curling upward, blending with the dark. Just breathe, I told myself, letting the lot's familiarity cradle me. But the woods were alive, their quiet, not empty but watchful, a presence I couldn't name. A rustle broke the stillness, faint but sharp, from the trees beyond the lot. My pulse quickened, the cigarette trembling in my fingers. Just a coyote, I thought, or maybe a bobcat, its eyes glinting in the shadows. The Midwest was full of such creatures, harmless if you kept your distance. Still, the sound unsettled me, a reminder of how alone I was, miles from help. I stubbed out the cigarette, the ember flaring briefly, and headed back to my car, the gravel crunching under my boots. Inside, I locked the doors, a habit born of city life, and turned on the radio. Heavy metal roared, its fury matching mine, drowning out the woods and their secrets. You're fine, I told myself, the music a shield. Against the night, I lit another cigarette, the flame of my lighter casting a brief glow across the dashboard. I'd smoke this one, then head home, let the fight fade into tomorrow. The lot was empty, the stars my only company, and for a moment, I felt the world right itself. Then it came, a hand, massive and sudden, slamming against the passenger window. My heart stopped. The cigarette slipping from my fingers, its ember searing my jeans. I turned, and there it was again, pounding, the glass trembling under the force. A voice followed, low and furious, cutting through the music. "Open the door," it demanded, the words ablaze in the dark. I fumbled for the radio, silencing. Get my breath shallow. In the dim light I saw him, a man towering, his face hidden under a black hoodie, the hood pulled tight. He yanked the handle, the door rattling but holding fast. Thank God it's locked. My hands shook, my mind a blur of fear and confusion. Who is he? The question burned, but there was no time to answer. He vanished from the passenger side, only to reappear at my window, his fist now hammering the glass, inches from my face. "Open it!" he roared, his voice raw, unhinged. I caught a glimpse, dark beard, ball cap, a stocky frame that loomed over the car, his shadow swallowing the light. Move. The word was a command, not from him but from some primal part of me. I threw the car into reverse, my foot slamming the pedal, the tires spitting gravel as I lurched backward. The man lunged, his hand grazing the hood, but I was already turning, the headlights catching him for a split second. A hulking figure, his eyes burning with something I couldn't name. I floored it, the car fishtailing onto the highway, the lot shrinking in my rear view. Then a sound, a sharp explosive crack like a gunshot. My stomach dropped, my hands gripping the wheel as I pushed the speedometer to 90, the gravel road blurring beneath me. Was that a bullet? The thought was a knife twisting in my gut, but I didn't stop, didn't look back. The road stretched on, a tunnel of darkness, until I reached a gas station, its fluorescent lights a beacon. My friend Jake worked there, and I stumbled in, my voice shaking as I told him everything. The hand, the voice, the crack that might have been a gun. We checked my car, our breaths clouding in the cold. The roof had two dents, shallow but real, and the passenger door bore a smudged boot print, its outline stark against the paint. He was on the car. The realization hit like a wave, cold and heavy. Jake urged me to call the police, but I hesitated. The lot was 20 minutes from town, a speck in the wilderness. By the time anyone got there, the man would be gone, swallowed by the woods. We talked it over, the weight of the night pressing down, and decided to let it go, a choice that felt wrong even then. Back home, the silence was worse than the lots. I lay awake, the stars still vivid in my mind, but now they felt like eyes, watching, waiting. I saw his hand, the way it struck the glass, the fury in his voice. What did he want? To rob me? To take the car? Or something worse, something I couldn't name? The dents, the boot print, they were proof, a message left in metal and dust. I regretted not calling the police, not giving them a chance to find him, to stop him before he struck again. Some places feel safe until they aren't, and some shadows, once they touch you, leave marks that never fade. Now you've heard them. 13 real horrors. Not imagined, not exaggerated, just lived. And once something is lived, it never truly dies. It stays. In memories, in sleepless nights, in the way you second-guess that creak behind the door. These stories weren't meant to entertain. They were meant to remind you. The world is not always what it seems, and the most terrifying things often walk among us unnoticed. But this isn't the end. There are still more truths in the dark, waiting, watching, unraveling. If you have the nerve to return, subscribe, tap the bell, and join us again. Next time, we go deeper. Next time, the stories might hit closer. And next time, you might not be the one listening. You might be the one being told about.